Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Angela Solomos and I have the awesome privilege of being the Vice President of Philanthropy here at the Yonge Street Mission. I am so happy to welcome you today to our conversation, which is part 2 in a 3-part webinar series entitled Pathways to Meaningful Income. Today, you'll be learning about YSM's Workforce Development Program and hearing from employers who are working with us to help create meaningful employment opportunities for YSM community members. But before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. I do wish to inform you that we are recording today's webinar and you will receive a copy so you can watch this again or to please share it with others. Also, we are taking questions. And while we may not get to every question, depending on the time at the end of the webinar, we welcome them. You can press the button at the right of your screen and we will receive those questions. We'll get to as many as we can, but we'll follow up with an email answering every one of them. So I do encourage you to ask away. Finally, before we get this conversation started, I would like to begin this time together by acknowledging the land upon which YSM serves. We acknowledge the land on which YSM serves the people of Toronto is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our panel at this time. Our moderator is Angie Peters, YSM's President and CEO, Glenn Roy Williams, the Employment Engagement Supervisor here at YSM, and Melissa Hashi, the Manager of Human Resources at Paragon Security. Let's get going, and I will see you all later. Angie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Angela. I am so excited to dive into this topic with everyone today. Thank you for joining us as we explore more the journey that we try to create for a pathway to meaningful employment for people. And as you'll remember last time in our last webinar, we spoke about the role of that our teams play in working with community members who have multiple barriers to realizing their employment goals and the ways that we go about doing that. This time, we're going to be exploring the very important role that employers play in this partnership as we together seek to help people really realize their employment goals and truly move towards thriving. So to get us to talk a little bit about this and get us started, I'd like to introduce YSM's Employer Engagement Supervisor, Glenn Roy Williams. Glenn, welcome.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Well, Angie, my role primarily focuses on building relationships with employers. So we have employers that have been working with us. We want to strengthen those relationships. And when it comes to new employer partnership, we want to build those and make them robust in such a way that we can work together to create change in the lives of the people that we work with. So it's an amazing journey for that.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And so, so that I'm clear, it sounds like some other staff at YSM, the care managers and other staff, work with the community members on their development holistically, and your team works with the employers to identify employers and prepare them, prepare opportunities that would be available to the community members. Is that right?
That's true, Angie. That's true. So what happens is, in this webinar, we're going to speak to some of our partners that we work closely with and create this really beautiful relationship. And so the staff and the team that I work with, what we do is that once we identify an employee that is interested in working with us, there's somebody in the back end or team in the back end kind of working with the community member to get them up to date to where they need to be so they can take these opportunities and really capture what we're trying to build with them. So definitely one of our most important role is really preparing the potential employee to get to where they need to be. And so in the webinar, you're definitely going to see that. You're going to see how we do that, definitely.
That's fantastic. And so it sounds like you're really focusing very much on bridging the gap between community members and job seekers who are looking for employment and employers. And of course, the job seekers that we're talking about are individuals who have some barriers to realizing employment. And so that's why they've come to all of us for support. how can you talk to us a little bit more in detail about how that works, finding employers who are willing to give community members a chance at employment?
Awesome. Yes. I mean, we just had a slide that came up that talks about the three-way partnership, and definitely what we recognize at YSM. Well, community member come to us with variety of situations they're dealing with, and so what we recognize if we're able to come alongside the community member with having great partnership with employer partners who are really willing to work with our community members. And with this three coming together, so we have the YSM offering amazing wraparound support. So we're talking about focusing on their mental health piece, their housing pieces, all these facets of what really makes this person a person or an individual in the community. So when we have YSM offering all that service, we have the employment team coming alongside them with assistance and support, getting them prepared for different jobs, working in skills areas. And then we have the employer who's willing to work with that community member. And from that beautiful perspective and everybody understanding the vital part that they play, we see tremendous growth and tremendous development and tremendous success when somebody goes off to work. So this is just amazing how working together comes out working that way.
That's so good to hear. Thanks, Glenn. I mean, really, when you think about it, as I listen to you speak, really, this is so relational and non-transactional, right? It's not about, come, you need this, we'll connect you with this person, and then we leave people to their own devices.
Yeah.
We're actually really working together with the person at the center, and all of us really desiring to help them move forward in their lives. And that's absolutely beautiful. I want to turn us to a video. We'd like to introduce you to an individual in this video who really, this shows and exemplifies the kind of work that Glenn's been talking about. So we'd like you to meet Victor and his experience at Ecclesiastical Insurance.
My name is Victor Chan. I work for Ecclesiastical Insurance Company for 1 year and 1 month. A good atmosphere for me to learn and also collaborate with one another. I heard about YSM through the government website. I signed up for the job alert and I checked my emails. And then I got the connection to YSM, and I went to Chinatown and had an interview in person, and that's how it got started.
So initially, we were working with Ecclesiastical, and that's where we found this opportunity of Victor's role. He's kind of an inventor, a very good entrepreneur. He ran his own business for a very long time, and due to the pandemic, that was the reason why he also came in. And we wanted to get him up and at his feet, especially kind of moving toward the career goal that he wanted to do now.
Well, Julian from YSM helped me a lot. He gave me advice, he guided me through every single step of the way to finding the right employer. I think I got a better chance of being hired because of that connection.
We like to say giving back is in our DNA. So the opportunity to partner with YSM and to provide community members with really viable opportunities to build and develop careers and set them on a career path is something that's incredibly meaningful and rewarding to us. As an organization, it's just one additional way that we can give back to the communities where we serve, where we live, where we work.
So at the beginning, of course, it took me a while to learn and pick up the stuff. Reading books cannot make me learn. I learned everything by hands-on experience. It's like riding on a bike. You cannot learn riding a bike by reading a book. You have to actually get a bike and ride on it. I'm getting used to it. I'm quite confident mastering that skill. After coming to the organization, I actually helped improving the updating process of the database.
I would highly recommend this program to other employers. It's a wonderful way to give back, to bring in talent, to give them a step up and to help them develop their skills, their capabilities, to build on their confidence, and to set them on a path that is successful in terms of building out their career.
After this YSM program, I'm able to find the financial stability. I don't have to worry about switching from one job to another. It's a foundation. I have confidence. It's a blessing. Like I have that chance for the YSM connection. If YSM didn't exist, like not there, I don't think I get a job. When there's chances, opportunity, you just have to know when to grab it. So it's important for people out there looking for a job that you just cherish what you have and grab that chance.
What an amazing story, right, Victor? I mean, what he said, I found financial stability and he's pursuing his goals for his life. I mean, who among us doesn't want that? That's a universal human desire. And it's lovely to see that example with ecclesiastical. You know, when you think about it, the work that you do with the employer is really critically important. And I wonder if you could share with us a little more, Glenn, about how your team works with the employers to prepare them to create a successful environment like ecclesiastical did.
Wow. Yeah, that was truly an inspiring story. We love those, and there are many of those, right? The key things that we want to really our employer partner to understand and how we're able to get new employer partners is the team reaches out to just create an initial contact. So what we do, we look at different companies and we kind of look at companies that kind of falls into what we want to do. And we kind of look at how they would interact with the kind of community members that we send. And so first thing we do initial contact is where we express our interests and then we just have a good conversation with them. The second thing is that once the company said that hey, we want to work with you, we really want to help and create change in our community. As again, looking at Victor's story, right, how his transformation happened. We then do needs assessment. We really look into this. What are you looking for in a recruitment, an individual? How is your retention set up at your office? What's your aim? And so we come up with all the objectives of what the company is looking for and create a nice persona of that company. Then we move, once we've agreed on what they're looking for, we move on to like a custom program. Here is where we decide, as you mentioned, you can hear in the video of the ecclesiastical, the program work because we come up with a program that matches you. If you need a program, if you need an individual, we kind of get the person ready for what your office is looking for. And from that, we come up with a beautiful agreement that shows what the employer wants, what the job is expected from the community member. And we have this beautiful synergy as to when the person goes there, it's not like an unexpected thing. They know what they're going for. And once a program is implemented, basically we just watch it, we monitor that program after. So let's say the person is placed initially for 4 months to see what's happening. And then the employer can decide going forward. We would monitor that and we would speak to the community member. How has it been working for this employer? How have you enjoyed it? And then we speak to the employer. How have you enjoyed the community member? Have they been doing what we've talked about? And from that, once let's say we find a beautiful relationship, we evaluate the process and then we look into the long term. Because eventually, Angie, we're looking for, like as Victor says, my life is transformed, my life was changed because of this, financially in every aspect of my life. We want that to happen to every community member that goes out to work for an employer partner, where they stick around, longevity, sustainability. So these are the key things that we come up with. At the end of the day, we have a beautiful relationship with the employer. That's the process we go through. And it's been amazing to see the results.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Glenn. You can see that there's a lot of intentionality in this, really, to value the employer as well and understand their needs and just create something that is powerful and works. And so to that end, I'm happy to invite Melissa Hashi to share the employer's perspective with us. Melissa, you're with Paragon Security, and that's a professional services company that recruits and trains and places people in security services. Can you tell us a bit about your experience working with us?
Yes. Well, first, I would like to thank you for having me here today. Paragon is so pleased with our relationship with the Yonge Street Mission. So we got started actually when Yonge Street Mission reached out to us explaining that they believed security roles would be suitable for their clients.
Thank you. I had to put myself off mute there. That's fantastic. We're so grateful. And so what you said is YSM reached out to you, and we've heard about the types of clients we have. Did that give you pause for thought? Did you have any concerns in terms of working with YSM?
No, after speaking with Glenn's team, we were really open to trying out Yonge Street Mission's workforce development program, and thought that candidates with pre-existing security license would be our best bet. Though it, became clear early on that YSM wanted to bring us candidates who didn't have a security license so that they could be responsive to the people in their program. Working with Glenn's team, we determined that a group recruitment approach would be best. So whereas community members would come and take the security guard training with Paragon, and then after which they could apply for a security role with Paragon. So we thought that this was a great idea. It was kind of a no-brainer at that point, because it would really allow us to also test out the candidates before making a commitment. But unfortunately, we quickly saw that candidates actually were not passing the test after the training, and it seemed as though the program maybe was not going to be successful.
Yeah, that must have been disappointing after all the work that you put into that. I love the intention and the desire to make it work, and then to see the candidates not passing the test. What happened next?
Absolutely. But this is where working with YSM was different and special. And you really saw their commitment to their community members. And at this point, kind of in Paragon's story with YSM, it really shined through. So Glenn's team actually worked to try to determine the reason why participants were failing. And it actually was determined that the problem was the test taking. Test taking was actually a huge barrier. But YSM then took it upon themselves to initiate and host a test taking program for participants. And we actually saw after that future participants, who had taken the test taking workshop, resulted in an 85% increase in passing the test. So from there, we established a consistent process. So where we supported YSM and their participants for security guard training, and then also with the test taking, and then also helping them with the resource of navigating the security guard license application, the interview preparation, and then eventually employment with Paragon.
That is just wonderful. To hear that story. I hope it's encouraging to everybody else too, because, really YSM and Paragon persevered and stuck to it when you hit a road, like a bump in the road in terms of trying to work with community members. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell us just quickly, how long have you and YSM been working together?
So I would say it's over 4 years now, but in all honesty, it feels much longer. And I think that's because of the strength of our partnership and really the shared values that YSM and Paragon both have. We've created this sustainable recruitment process that benefits both YSM's community members and Paragon. And it really helped us as Paragon be able to reach out and serve the community better as an employer.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. We really appreciate you sharing that perspective. And I know you'll be back on again. Glenn, I've got a question for you. We've heard what was happening from Paragon's perspective in this project from Melissa. What was happening on your end? When people weren't passing, why didn't your team just give up? And how is it that you were able to know enough about the community members to determine the root cause?
And thank you, Angie. That's the beauty of what this whole wraparound support really is, Angie. It's where we have spent time with the community member prior to them going to the job or doing the training before. So we've assessed where they're from, what they're looking for, their skills, their abilities. And so in this situation where the staff recognized that they weren't passing, and we, with Paragon, again, working closely with our partners, it's just a beautiful thing. I can't keep stop saying that because it's so sweet. And where we recognized what was happening, the team came together, rally around the community member, and just helping them to understand the reality that they have potential and capabilities, and they can do this. And we figure out a way with the support of our partner, the Paragon. And this is just what I think will continue to work because we've proven, as Melissa said, we recognize it works now. So that's what we're going to do for this, and it's always working. So it's definitely something that we've seen and continue to do. And the team is so encouraged by it. So we can do anything now, I believe. But thank you for that. It's just a great opportunity to just work hard and achieve something.
That's so good. I mean, just really just seeing the capacity in people, even if the traditional ways of assessing people's abilities didn't work, and leaning into that and helping them shine. So thanks so much to you and the team for doing that. Now, I know that we talk about the multiple challenges that people face in terms of being able to pursue employment. And we've talked in the Paragon's case, it was test taking. What other kinds of barriers do you and your team help people overcome?
Yes, Angie, that's a very good question. We have a great talent pool coming to YSM. And knowing that YSM has been around for 126 years, we've learned, like working with the community members, what are some things that are going to really help them to be successful. So they come in with different barriers that they're facing. Some might be just person situational, it might be just personal life, and also might be systemic. But what we recognize, and we have this beautiful model we call the RISE model. And in the RISE model, we look at 4 areas. So we look at the person comes in to open to the door and said, I need help. We recognize we want to respond to that help. We want to invite them, we want to support them, and we want to engage them. This is what RISE stands for. And if you look at it on the response, we're talking about, it might be they need some food. There might be a food crisis, a food shortage, or insecurity. They might not have the appropriate clothes for interviews. So then we go on every situation here, invite them, looking at mental health, counseling. We want to just tackle all these areas because what we've recognized is by tackling these areas, Angie, we've put the person in a place where they said, man, people care about me. This organization care about me. They care about my success, not just me finding a job right now, but my mental health, my housing, my family situation. When we work through all of that, we're now able to say, man, let's talk about employment and what that means to you. And when we come to the point of employment, they see they're more engaged. And again, bringing our partners in there, they said, oh man, they want me to go to work today. They want me to go work for them. And that is such a motivation that we have gained sustainable employment from that, long-term employment, and just a great change in a person's perspective of value. So definitely the RISE model has been amazing, and that's how we apply it across the board.
That's so helpful. Thanks for walking us through that, Glenn. I mean, it really showcases and makes it more tangible to understand the whole person approach that your team and the other teams at YSM that you collaborate with take with every person, believing in them fundamentally until they start to believe in themselves. And I think we know that as human beings. I mean, if we aren't fed, if we don't feel safe and secure in our homes, if we don't have these things in place, it's very, very hard to succeed in our workplace environment. So thank you for sharing all that. I think some of our audience may know about TIMES, our measurement and evaluation system. And I know that we use that so that we can understand if what we're doing is really helping people, because that's what we're here to do. Can you share with us a little bit about how the TIMES data helps you understand the impact that your team is having, Glenn?
Awesome. I think that's, when we think of that, the TIMES measurement. So we know the TIMES measurement is really around 18 indicators, okay? So when somebody walks through the door and they decide, I want to change my life. And YSM, we say, let's monitor and let's track this person change from the time they came in to the time they don't need our services anymore. And so we use the TIMES measurement, which kind of look at 18 specific indicators, and the indicators that it looks at could be, we look at economic, we look at relationship, and we look at education, all these areas we look at. And so from looking at the data after doing this over and over again, we begin to see an amazing, amazing transformation. Where if you look at the green area, which primarily focus on the economic, because we're talking about that today, we begin to see so many changes in the economic sphere of this person's life. And so when we go through that, you can see in the employment readiness, in the economic employment status, that we look at the ability to deal with money and to handle money. And if you look at the other slide, you would see where those transition happens in terms of the changes. Definitely something that we see and we track and we recognize every time, that as we put the energy into building this person up, not just say go to work, but building them up in all the other aspects through the RISE model, we can see the growth in the employment because they're keeping the job longer. They understand the value for money. Like, they make the money, they don't just go spend it without any kind of thinking. They know this money has value when they work for it and they see the welcomeness of it. So definitely the time as a measurement is such an amazing tool that helps us to continue to progressively help somebody in their journey towards successful and meaningful employment and a meaningful, sustainable life. So definitely something that the times measurements has been doing for us.
I was thinking while you were speaking, Glenn, that what this really shows is through all of this work, through this holistic approach to what really all human beings need, ourselves included, is the shift in mindset, where people are equipped to move from sort of a survival mindset to a thriving mindset, because they know the value of money, yes, but they also believe that there is a future. And so they start to think ahead and work towards that future with hope in their lives. And so thank you for sharing that and helping us see how it works for us.
Truly. Angie, also one of the change we see in the data is in the sense of power. If we look at the sense of power, like we know the financial aspects is growing and we can see them valuing what they're doing, but the sense of power is a beautiful, if you look at it, it's grown because now they can see that they have value. They can see their lives are not in the way when they first came in, where there's no housing, there's no mental health piece being taken care of, but their sense of power, their sense of transformation, the sense of possibility improves after we look at the measurements, and we can see that in the data. So definitely, if you look at the diagram on the board, you can see the area of sense of power growing from the original baseline. So these are all beautiful things that we see in what we do.
That's so great. So that means we even have a metric for that, where we see where people's hope is increasing and they have that sense of, what I do can make a difference. My life can be better if I make the effort. And so we all need that. And so thank you so much for that. Melissa, as you work with the community members that come to Paragon as a result of this program, do you see the benefits of this pre-work in the folks that are showing up?
Definitely. So you mentioned earlier that we are a professional service company with highly sensitive roles. So the caliber of employees are the utmost importance to us. So while we know that YSM brings us candidates that are high barriered, they are always prepared to step into our training program and then endure the rigorous process we have in place before creating a work placement. It isn't easy to become a Paragon employee, but it is definitely evident that YSM does a great job in ensuring that the candidates are up to the task. Paragon is in regular contact with our YSM workforce of development staff person. And I think what's really special and great too is whenever there are any challenges or issues, they are there to step in and help. And I think, the previous story really spoke to that. We are a true team, I feel. The employer, the staff, the clients, and YSM are all working hard to stabilize and improve their life.
Thanks so much for that, Melissa. And that's encouraging to hear. And I think that, what we're seeing in what Glenn has shared, what you've shared, even in the video, that this is about relationship, right? And the successful outcomes are coming because we're working in relationship. It's actually a beautiful example of community working together, different members of the community, social organizations like ourselves, employers like yourselves, working with people, coming up with really actually effective ways to help people move forward in their lives. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Glenn, for your participation in this. I want to thank all of our employer partners and corporate partners who were a part of making this webinar happen and the work that we do in an ongoing way. And as we come to the end of our time together today, I'd like to thank all of the folks that get involved with our work. And some of them have agreed to share some words with you. So we're going to roll a little video to share those.
The relationship isn't necessarily between agencies, I believe. The relationship is between people. Supportive employment is really about putting individualized wraparound services for each employee. Why we collaborate with employment centers is because they're providing a key service, and that is to give hope. To me, employment is a hopeful place. It means I can pay my bills. It means I have something to offer.
So sometimes we see people going from like having less self-confidence in terms of looking for their own jobs, even writing their own resumes, and you see that confidence kind of build even just as you finish up the resume with them, and they can kind of take a look at it and say, this represents what I can do. And then really seeing people be able to have their own agency in terms of their job search.
Well, we've worked with the Yonge Street Mission for quite some time. They're a wonderful charity that provides wraparound services to many communities, so we've been very proud to engage with a long-term partnership with them over the past few years.
For companies that are looking at a way of kind of evolving their hiring practices, it's been really, really good. And because it's allowed us to kind of look at the inefficiencies or inequality in our goal to be a lot more diverse, I think it's been a fantastic program for that.
One thing that's really important to us when it comes to community involvement or any partnerships that we have is that it's authentic, that it's something that's, again, mutually beneficial, that has an impact. And working with YSM, knowing and seeing the efforts that go into the community really plays a big, it's a big contributor to why we made the decision to partner.
So the more that we give back, the more that we engage employees, it does have a knock-on effect. The higher the retention, the higher the employee satisfaction, the more that we can do and the more positive impact that we have on our communities, where we work, where we live, and where we hope to serve.
We are making a difference.
We are making a difference.
We're making a difference.
We're making a difference.
Don't you just love collaborating for good? We all do what we do. Our employer partners have very different businesses, very different business models, but what we're all enjoying in common is this ability to do something that actually makes a difference together, and it's so much fun. So I want to just thank you again, Glenn and Melissa, and all of our partners and those that shared. And just invite you in the audience, if you are a business owner or you're aware of an employer who might be interested in joining us in this very fun work, I'd invite you to give us a call. There's our phone number is there up on the screen, and our email address. You can reach out to us. Before we move on to questions, I'd like to just highlight our next webinar, the details of which are going to come up on the screen there. We hope you'll join us as we share the challenges facing community members as we seek to navigate the system and find meaningful employment. So we do have time for questions, and I'm going to throw it over to Angela. Do we have any audience questions?
Hi again. What a great conversation. Thank you all for for everything that you shared with us today. It was very inspirational, as you will notice from the list of questions we have for you today. And we do have a bit of time to be able to get to many of them. So the first question is for you, Melissa. The first is there anything else that I should know from an employer's perspective?
That's a great question. From my perspective as an employer, I would say there's really nothing to lose from speaking with Glenn and his team. The process from the beginning is so thought out and planned out that there is minimal impact as an employer on your daily duties. As an employer, like I said, there's really nothing to lose, and you have so much to gain aside from, the recruitment. So from my perspective, just take that phone call.
Take that phone call, or even give us a call.
Yes.
The number was on the screen earlier, and we do welcome anyone who's looking for labor to give us a call. The next question, I'll just read it out loud and we'll see who wants to take it. Do I have to provide only full-time employment, or are there other opportunities like part-time or project work that could be suitable? Angie, I do think we might have one partner that you could refer to in this regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is really important for people to know if they're considering getting involved, because I think many people assume that they have to have a full-time job for a person. And of course, everybody is working towards that in their life, but many people need some initial steps to ready themselves for that. And they're working through various stages of our programming in terms of employment readiness. And what they would really value is something part-time or a specific job for a period of time. And one of our employment partners, Kinetrix, and their CEO, David Harris, and I were chatting one day. And I made him aware of this. And then for him, it was like a little light bulb went off. And he was like, oh, okay. Because in their particular situation, they have a challenge. It's a unionized environment. And so how do you introduce people into that? But they really wanted to help. They wanted to create employment opportunities. And so he just started looking for them. And then one day, one came up because they received all of this PPE and safety equipment that needed to be packaged up in bulk to send to one of their facilities for staff to use in sort of individual packages. And so they have a month's worth of work for individuals to come and just do this packaging work. And it's perfect. It's perfect for people to just get their foot in the door, begin to build their confidence, and they're having a wonderful time. And I think the first day they worked, I'll tell you this story. At the end of the day, he texted me a little picture of the whole team there, all standing together. And he is thrilled. His team is thrilled. The people are thrilled. And they're actually talking about ways that they can try to help these individuals navigate into something more permanent for themselves based on their life and work experience. So there's a lot that can be done. It's worth making the call, even if you don't have a full-time role.
I'm so happy that question was asked because I love that answer so much. The next question I will direct to Glenn Roy. Does YSM help employers access financial support from the government to support training of new employees?
It's a great question, Angela. Sorry. Yes. So YSM does ask the government funding, that it does exist. The thing I want to point out, though, the important thing to point out is that not every individual to walk through the door is able to access certain funding. So there are people that can get partial funding. It depends on what it is. So I think that conversation will be had with the potential employer and to see which category they fit into. But what I think if any employer that's going to pick up the phone and call us are going to be employers that really want to change lives. And from that perspective, we're able to work and create amazing things. So that's the best answer there.
Thank you, Glenn Roy. The next question is for you, Melissa. This one makes me happy. It starts with, I'm interested, exclamation point. Can you share any advice for someone considering being an employer partner?
Great question. I would say to be open and ask questions. Glenn and his team are so knowledgeable. And I think sometimes as an employer, as hard as we try to always fully understand what barriers someone may have to the employment to us as an employer. We don't. And I think this is where Glenn and, YSM and his team, their expertise really come in. And just ask questions, speak to the team. You could be losing out on a potential wonderful employee because sometimes we don't want to ask those questions, but this is what they do. There's nothing you can't ask them. They're always there to help. And as an employer, help us understand better what we can do. So ask those questions, just be open. It's going to be a great opportunity for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Melissa. And thanks to the individual who asked the question. Glenn, question for you. How long is the process to sign up a new employer partner?
That's an easy question. Process can be very fast. It all depends on how fast we can get the paperwork ready. For employers, you want to make sure you have your WSIB and all those stuff that is very important for being a part of what we do. But it's something that we can quickly get done as sometimes it can be even in a day. It all depends, but it's very fast and it's very simple and straightforward if you just have the stuff together. So definitely speed is important, but quality still, and that one.
Okay. Speed and quality. Two good things. Angie, I'm going to give this one to you.
Okay.
As a potential corporate partner, what is better for YSM? For me to be a financial donor or an employer partner?
Is this a trick question, Angela? It's a good question. I think that obviously an organization like YSM needs funding, and we do, and we value our donors because that helps us have people like Glenn and his team do the incredible work that they do. I often will say I've never seen an empty building change a life, but it's our staff that work with these people that changes lives. And having said that, then I think there's an awesome opportunity for your people in your company to work with people in a way that changes their lives. Businesses, are employers. That's what you do. And as a society, we all need, we're born, we go to school, we decide what we want to be when we grow up, and we work. And hopefully we're working at something that we're really passionate about, because that makes it even more fun. But it is the cycle of life, and everybody needs that. And the key role of business for a healthy community is for it to play its role in helping create employment opportunities for everybody. And the more that we have meaningful employment opportunities for everybody, the less we'll actually need places like us. And we're actually in the business of putting ourselves out of business. So if, what's the most important way for business to contribute? I actually think it is in creating these kinds of employment opportunities and just kind of deciding in whatever way that it makes sense for your business. You could just set a goal and say, we are going to try to employ 1, 3, 10, 50, depends on the size of your company, people who are facing some sort of barrier to employment. In these kinds of roles, you can identify them. You can work with an organization like YSM to identify where the matches might be between the kind of community members that we're working with and their skills and the kind of roles that you have, and try to line those things up and support you in effectively filling those positions and reaching your community impact goal of creating meaningful employment opportunities for people with barriers.
Thank you, Angie. And thanks to everyone for asking questions. We are coming to the end of our time today. So I think we'll wrap our questions at that point, and we'll answer any others through the email as promised earlier. I'm hoping we can get the slide up with the next webinar, just to let our audience know that this is the second in a 3-part webinar series entitled Pathways to Meaningful Income. The third in our series is about systems navigation, which is another barrier that our teams work very, very difficult with, very diligently with our community members to overcome towards meaningful income, including employment and all other forms of meaningful income that can change lives. So we do encourage you to tune in on September the 21st at 12 o'clock noon. I want to once again thank Glenroy, Melissa, and Angie for guiding us through an awesome conversation today. I want to thank our audience for your amazing questions and for tuning in and being with us today. And we're open to talk. We're open to take your call and to talk about how you, your business, or someone you know may be willing and interested in getting involved with the work that we do. So on that note, thank you again.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you,
will
Angie.
see you next time.
Thank you, Angie.
Bye.